it's easy to sum it up when you just talk about practice. We sitting here, I'm supposed to be the franchise player, and we're in here talking about practice.
Well, Coach,
I mean, listen, we talking about practice. Not a game. We talking about practice. Not a game. Not the game that I go out there and die for and play every game like it's my last. Not the game. We're talking about practice, man.
This week on the Mike D and the Sure Shot podcast, we're going to talk about practice, man. We're going to talk about practice and how it's important to all your pursuits, whether it's CrossFit, a sport, being a husband, being a wife, being a son, being a daughter, being a family member, how practice influences and impacts not just our performance, but everyone else around us. But hey, before we start, let's have a little music, shall we? That song is called Naked Kids, and it's by the group Love, by the band Group Love. And it's such a cool song, man. And let me tell you, super appropriate for this time of year because it's about a bunch of friends just going to the beach, driving to the beach. And hey, a couple weekends ago, it was Memorial Day weekend, kickoff of the summer. It's a beautiful day. I'm looking outside my office windows right now. The sun is shining. Everything's super green outside. I'd love to be outside recording this, but you guys can probably tell. I've got the windows open and there's a lot of traffic and whatnot, so I don't want it to taint the recording too much. Otherwise, I'd be out there. But hey, man, what a great way to kick off the summer. What a great way to kick off this podcast, right, with this song. And another good memory I have, 3 years ago when I was coaching at CrossFit Hoboken, Melissa's family rented a house down in LBI, down in Long Beach Island. So I had to work that week, and I met everyone down there after classes on a couple nights. And I remember just packing myself up, throwing it in the car. I had this little BMW 135i at the time, 2011 135i. It was a rocket ship, dude, a rocket ship. It was so sick. And I remember just ripping down the parkway late at night. No one was around but me. And I don't know how I didn't either A, kill myself or get a ticket. But let's kick it off with that song, right? What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Mike D and the Sure Shot podcast, episode number 18. And today we're going to talk about practice. So the reason why I'm talking about this is, a few members at the gym have lately been asking about, oh man, how do I get better at doing muscle ups? How do I get better at doing handstand push-ups or walking on my hands? I really want to do these skills or, get these skills down and use them. And as coaches, one of our first questions is, oh, cool, man. So how often do you practice this stuff? And a lot of times we hear, I don't practice it. And it's like, okay, all right. I see what you're doing here. I see what the problem is. And look, man, you could say, one can argue that it's a function of the programming. Like, if muscle ups only show up, say, once a week, that could be an issue. If handstand walking only shows up once a week, it can be quote unquote blamed on the programming. But hey, man, couple things here. We're talking about general physical preparedness. We're not talking about specialization. So when it comes to handstand push-ups, handstand walking, muscle-ups, double unders, number one, that's programmed fairly frequently already. But because we're seeking GPP, we don't want to program that kind of stuff every single day. That doesn't mean that if you can't do those movements, you can't do anything in the workout. As we all know with CrossFit, infinitely scalable, so there are a million regressions, a million lateralizations that we can use to get some good exercise in, right? Get some good movement in. As I've talked about in the past, think about exercising falling into movement families, right? We just want to make sure, we have to make sure as coaches that we pick the right exercise out of that movement family for you so that you're moving awesomely and you have a great workout. And via consistency, you can progress, right? Well, what if someone needs more help? What if they just need more, just more practice? That's where you got to practice this stuff on your own, and that's a hard, shitty answer that no one wants to hear. Now, look, I'm not saying that you have to do 50 handstand push-ups a day. I'm not saying that you have to try to max out your snatch or max out your clean and jerk every single day. No. Look, there's always a progression to things, right? So perhaps say your goal is forget handstand walking. Say your goal is to get upside down, kick inverted up against the wall, hold a handstand there, and maybe eventually do some handstand push-ups. Well, hey, man, you got to start from the root, right? How's your push-up? How's your plank? I mean, even going back further, how's your plank? Are you able to hold a nice, solid, stable position for an extended period of time? When you're doing push-ups, right, how do they look? Just regular push-ups with your feet on the ground, hands on the ground. How do they look, right? Are you able to hold that solid plank during that movement? Maintain it throughout. Can you bang out a ton of push-ups, right? Do you have the strength and stability to get into an inverted position? And maybe, backtracking a little bit more, do you have the mobility and stability to get up there, right? Do you have the range of motion to get into that position? So these are all questions that you need to answer, and we as coaches are there to help for sure. So number one, let's look at the base movement, right? Let's look at the root and then go from there. If the roots are solid, if the foundation is solid, that's great, man. We can build on that. If the foundation is not solid, well, hey, guess what? That's okay too. That's not a discouraging thing because it's like, all right, awesome, man. We know where to start. Let's keep it simple and let's go from there. Hey, newbies. And I'm not just talking about the person that just picked up CrossFit. I'm talking about even veteran CrossFitters that maybe don't practice certain skills because they're afraid, right? Maybe they let the ego get in the way and they're like, oh man, I don't want to look weak compared to someone else. You get in your head, you're like, I can't do that. I've been doing this for too long. I'm going to do this instead. Hey man, if you're a newbie to a movement, if you're a rookie to a movement, and you're consistent with practicing the basics, I've got a fucking newsflash for you. You're going to progress pretty quickly. That's something that a lot of people don't understand, man. Dude, when you're new and you're consistently practicing skills and, practicing them the right way, practicing with intent, doesn't have to be perfect. A lot of people, I've heard that saying before, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. That's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. One of the dumbest. Let me explain. The reason why that is a false statement is because if you have it in your head, all my movements must be perfect. I must have perfect practice. Number one, you're going to move like a robot. You're going to die by paralysis from analysis, right? You're just going to paralyze yourself. And then also, you're going to be afraid to make mistakes. And if you're afraid to make mistakes, once again, you turn into a robot. You clam up. I'm not saying be reckless, son. Like, look, you got to be safe, right? So like, let's take an easy example. For me, for example, I don't have the range of motion and stability to safely walk on my hands. So, you know, if I'm practicing the movement, I'm going to practice a more regressed version of the movement. Number one, honestly, I'm going to work on my mobility and stability, right? And then once I've, consistently been working on that and I feel good, I can progress slowly but surely, very consistently. For me to say right now, I'm going to kick up on my hands and go, it's probably not the best thing in the world. So I'm not saying be reckless, but what I am saying is don't be afraid to make a mistake. As long as you're in a safe situation, man, don't be afraid to make a mistake while practicing. Because your body needs to learn both things. Your body needs to learn, all right, cool. This is the right way to do it. This feels good. This is what it feels like to actually be efficient in this and proficient in this versus, ooh, that did not feel good. What did I do there? Maybe if I'm trying to walk on my hands, right? Like not me, but an athlete that, is at that level. Maybe it's like, you know what? I think I got a little too extended there. That's probably why I lost control. Or maybe the opposite. Like, you know what? Maybe I tucked my hips underneath me a little too much. I need a little extension when I'm walking on my hands. I'm going to try this instead. There has to be that discovery period, that learning period, right? I was talking to some of the classes about this the other day. A lot of the body weight stuff that we do, think of it as play, right? Movement exploration. As we get older, as adults, we forget how to play, right? Like when we were kids, think back to when you were a kid. All the silly, quote unquote, silly little games that you would do. Something as simple as say tag, right? Like you're running in all crazy ass directions. You're trying to tag your friend, right? Something like dodgeball. Do they even play dodgeball anymore? I don't even know. I love dodgeball. I don't have a good arm, but I still fucking love dodgeball. Same thing, like movement exploration, right? You're just playing around. It's important that the body learns how to do that. Right now, granted, there are some things where you have to be a little bit more strict with what you're doing. Like say you're doing weightlifting, say you're doing a clean and jerk, say you're doing a snatch, right? You don't want to play too much. You know what I mean? Like there is a certain way, a certain path that the body must move around that bar. But at the same time, you're going to make mistakes, and you do not be afraid to make mistakes, guys. Right? Do not be afraid to make mistakes. As long as you're, safe and you're moving with intent, don't be afraid to make a mistake because that's how we learn, both good and bad. I think sometimes as adults we forget that when we were kids, like say we were playing baseball or basketball, say you played football, whatever sport. For me, I coached. Well, I did, and I coached when I got older. Shot put, discus, and javelin for track and field. So the throwers, the ladies and gents that threw a cannonball, the ladies and gents that threw a spear, and also threw a heavy discus, a heavy frisbee that could cut your head off. We forget that when we were playing these sports, we practiced pretty much every day, maybe 6 days a week, maybe not 7, but like 6 days a week, right? And because of that, we got better and better and better. We were also in that newbie period in the beginning where it's like, holy crap, I'm picking these skills up super fast. Dude, don't be afraid to be a rookie in a movement. Don't be afraid to be a rookie, and don't be afraid to show people that, oh man, you know what? I haven't perfected this yet. This is still a work in progress, because number one, that person knows how it feels for sure. They might be going through it themselves, or they think back to when they first started. They're probably like, yeah, you know what? There's a bunch of things that I started doing in CrossFit, in baseball, in basketball, in gymnastics, in whatever sport you're doing, that I did not look the way I do now. I did not move the way I do now. So I remember that. Never be ashamed, man. Like, embrace that moment. Embrace that learning curve. You're going to learn a lot. You just got to take that step. A lot of times it's that we're afraid to put ourselves out there. We're afraid to take that step and say, you know what? I'm not going to be the best. God dang, truck. Who the hell? Ooh, that's a big tree. Sorry, guys. This big-ass truck hauling a chopped-up tree just passed by my house. Anyways, you know, a lot of sometimes we're afraid to take that step to almost like, not regress, but put ourselves out there, right? But if we don't take that step to challenge ourselves with something new, to put ourselves out there and push our limits mentally, physically, with something new, learning a new skill, right? Then we're never going to get better. We're just going to stay in this like little box that we're comfortable in. And dude, a huge part about CrossFit is learn new skills, learn new sports daily, right? And also getting outside the comfort zone. Getting outside the comfort zone. I think a lot of people forget that about CrossFit, myself included, man. Like, I've got my preferences in terms of workouts, right? Anything with weights, I love. Actually, anything kind of long, where it's just a nice, steady grinder. I'm a huge fan of that too. But anything like super fast, I'm like, I don't like too much. I got to do more of those workouts. I have to get out of my comfort zone. If we're really trying to be well-rounded, both physically and mentally, we've got to get out of that comfort zone. Let's transition, that part of fitness to life, right? I'm about to have 2 babies, right? Melissa is 28 weeks and I think 3 days or something. And the babies are slated to come in about 10 weeks. So whether I want it or not, and I do want it, I am going to be pushed out of my comfort zone really, really, really fast, right? Like faster than I think. So why not have something that'll help me when that moment comes? And you know what? You might say, well, nothing can prepare you. Yeah, dude, no shit. I know. I have a decent idea that nothing can prepare me, that either way, this is going to be a huge shock to the system. What I am saying, though, is I do believe, I 100% firmly believe that in sport, in fitness, certain aspects of your sport, certain aspects of what you do for fitness can transfer over into daily life. So for me, if it means getting out of my comfort zone, doing some awful workout, like say 21-15-9 of thrusters and pull-ups. A thruster is a front squat to push press, and pull-ups are pull-ups. Doing that sucker super hard and fast, and that's going to get me out of my comfort zone both physically and mentally. Something tells me that in some way, shape, or form, that's going to transfer over to when I have 2 screaming babies in the house. Not completely, because I'm not going to do thrusters with the babies in each hand, although that'd be kind of hilarious. But just from a mental aspect, something tells me that's going to transfer over. Why not do that for yourselves, man? Right? Put yourselves out there. But the key thing is, if you're going to work on those skills, it's got to be a consistent thing. It's got to be an everyday thing. Now, let's talk about that. Look, I'm not saying that you have to snatch heavy every single day, that you've got to clean and jerk heavy every single day, that you've got to do 50 handstand push-ups every single day. Maybe, depending on the method that you follow, right? Like if you're doing some sort of, say, the conjugate method for the clean and jerk and snatch, maybe you go heavy in something, an aspect of that movement, a part of that movement every day. I don't know. Handstand push-ups. Maybe you get to the point where it's like, you know what? My goal is to do 50 handstand push-ups a day, strict. Like, that's something that you have built up to over time, right? You might get there. That might be something that you do. But in the beginning, especially when you're a rookie, you don't have to do that kind of stuff every single day. But if I'm trying to say walk on my hands, right? Say I do want to walk on my hands. Then, like I said, like, you got to follow a certain progression. Maybe I start with a plank. If my plank is good, if it's nice and solid, I can hold that. All right, awesome. It's a good start. I can bang out 100 push-ups. Sick. Very cool. Even better. Let's progress to the next thing. My mobility and my stability have improved. All right, awesome. I'm going to be safe going overhead now. Let's play. Maybe from there, I practice, I put my feet up on a box. I practice walking my hands in towards that box to get inverted. All right, cool. Let's go. After that, maybe I forget the box. Fuck the box. Chuck the box. Let me see if I can walk my feet, walk my body up against the wall into an inverted position. All right, cool. Let's go. You see what I'm saying? Like there's certain steps that you can practice every day to get better. There's a couple of members at the gym. I don't know if you guys are listening, but Lance and Luke, very notably they wanted to be able to handstand walk. They wanted to be able to handstand walk. So after every workout, they either practice a handstand walk or some aspect that's going to help them get there, right? Help them get better in that movement. That's the kind of consistency that has to be done, man, in order to get better. It's practice, man. You got to get the practice in, man. And it's ironic because, I was thinking about Allen Iverson and from the Philadelphia 76ers and how he had that big rant about practice, and the media was like kind of ripping him a little bit because he had missed one of the practices for the Sixers. And when I was younger, I was like, man, they got to just leave him alone. He's a great player. And I loved Allen Iverson. He was an awesome player. But there is something to be said about practice for us normal human beings, for us mere mortals. And hell, I'm willing to bet elite CrossFitters, man, they're going to tell you right off the bat. You ask Coach Anthony and Coach Jackie, you got to practice every single day. This doesn't just apply to the gym or sport. This applies to being a good person, man. Being a good person. It applies to your career, whatever you do for a job. Like, for example, for me, one of the things that I struggle with is anxiety. I have pretty bad anxiety at times. And one of the things that really helps prevent my anxiety from kicking in is being consistent with what I'm doing in terms of work, right? Accomplishing as much as I can. And this podcast is great because the second I start speaking into this microphone, it locks in my brain like, all right, cool, man. Your brain is going. Your creative juices are flowing. Let's get some fucking shit done, son. You know what I mean? So it's like, for me, the more I can get done to really, if you think about it, help people, right? The better. There's a bunch of stuff I need to do today that I don't want to do. I have to sit in front of a computer for a little while and bang out some emails, do some stuff like that. But at the end of the day, if I get it done, I think of it bluntly, like if I just get it done, if I get it out of the way, I don't have to think about it anymore. I don't have to pine over it. It's not eating at me like, oh, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. It's done. I can move on. I can create some more stuff. Maybe I can do some more stuff that I actually truly enjoy doing, right? Like programming for clients or, just like finding videos and information for people that might need it at the gym. Helping out my fellow coaches and stuff. That's something that I need to take more of an active role in as the head coach of the gym. This kind of stuff is important, but it's never going to happen. It's never, ever going to happen if I don't put myself out there and I practice doing it every single day. That's where the consistency comes in. Like if I'm on this roll one day, but then I, in essence, skip practice tomorrow and I don't do shit on the computer, I don't do any research, don't do anything, of that nature, then guess what? I'm not practicing, right? I'm not being consistent with my practice. I'm not going to get better at doing that kind of stuff. I bet the same thing goes for your careers, guys. Like whatever you do for work, there's things that you don't want to do. There's probably many things in your job that you don't want to do. But you know what? The more you practice doing those things you don't want to do, number one, the less anxiety you're going to face Number 2, the better you get at coping with doing that kind of stuff. And then number 3, at the end of the day, like, with consistency, it's actually not that bad. You're like, man, that wasn't too bad at all. Like, anytime I sit in front of the computer and start typing stuff, when I'm finished, number 1, I feel super accomplished. Like, oh, thank God, I did all that stuff. And then number 2, it's like, that really wasn't that bad, right? Many people have it way worse. That wasn't that bad. I'm sure you go through the same thing at work. In terms of being a good husband, good wife, good son, brother, sister, daughter, whatever, that can take some practice too, man. Like, I think sometimes family members are super hard to love. I don't know if it's because you're used to them, you've been around them your whole life. Like, what's that saying? Familiarity breeds contempt, right? I was actually thinking about that because I was thinking of the Yankees and Red Sox the other day. But anyways, yeah, man, like sometimes, family members can be super hard to love. And I fall into that camp for sure. 100%, 110%, more than you guys will ever know, probably. But at the end of the day, something that has been, not eating at me, but something that's just been kind of like bouncing around my head, just like almost like a common mantra, is like, family is family, blood is thicker than water. And it really is, I think being consistent with reaching out to our loved ones, being a good husband, being a good wife, doing what we can to help our spouse, because we know that it's going to be something that means a lot to them, something that's really going to help them throughout the day. Sons and daughters, like doing something for your moms and dads, for your parents, something that you may not really want to do, like create and run a Facebook invite for a 4th of July barbecue when really no one in your family that's older understands how Facebook actually works. Like, you may not want to do that, right? I'm not speaking about myself. I'm just saying. You may not want to do that, but you also know how much that means to your mom, to your parents, whatever. Consistency and that kind of stuff is key. And I think that, like, once we're consistent with doing things like that, we realize, number 1, how much it means to that person. Number 2, how good it makes us feel. And once again, number 3, it wasn't that bad. You just got to put in the time, man, put in the effort. Something that I've been trying to do a much better job of is to do things earlier, to start my tasks earlier. Let me explain. I'm good at holding certain things off till the last possible moment, where it's like, all right, cool, I need to get this done. It's due today in like 2 hours. I'm going to do it with a half hour left to spare. I don't know why. It's a dick thing to do. I super apologize for that. But I've been working on starting projects earlier. That way, it's not so hard to be consistent in doing things that you may not necessarily like. I think one of the key factors is time, right? Like, if you procrastinate and you've got something you don't want to do, but has to be done, if you procrastinate, you're going to hate it that much more. Not necessarily because it's something you dislike doing, but whether you like it or not, you're the jerk that decided to wait until the last second. Now you're super stressed out and you're associating this massive load of stress with the thing that you were supposed to do, say, 2 days ago, or you could have easily done 2 days ago. But instead, you sat on your hands and you were like, all right, cool, I'm just going to wait till the last possible moment. You probably sat there saying, man, I wish I didn't have to do this and that. I read a good saying. It was something like, you know what? Wish in one hand, shit in the other, see which one fills up faster. And it's gross. That's such a gross saying, but like, guys, it's so appropriate because it's so true, man. Like we talked about in the past, intent without action is useless. Intent without action is nothing. We've got to act. We've got to act. And when it comes to things like this, things that we need to practice to get better, whether it's an athlete, whether it's a person, that practice has to be consistent, man. It's got to be consistent. Got to be an everyday thing. Tying it to the gym, tying it to sport and fitness, dude, like, you think about it, the stuff that we practice for our sports, the things that we practice for gym, that regimented, at times it can be dogmatic, which I think is problematic, but anyways, so it's just that regimented approach, it should transfer over to daily life. It really should. Sometimes it just takes some extra motivation. It takes putting ourselves out there, taking that step to make it happen. And like I said, you're going to make mistakes. It's cool, man. It happens. It's part of the learning process. Any coaches listening to me right now, if you are afraid of making a mistake while coaching class, it's okay. But it's also not. Put yourself out there. You're going to make mistakes. I screw things up all the time. I really do. There's times that I leave class, I'm like, damn it, you know what? I could have done that better. But it's, once again, part of the learning process, right? Pro tip, keep things simple. Keep your progression simple. Keep things fun and digestible. We just had a coaches meeting at CrossFit Caldwell this past Saturday. And we're talking about warm-ups and class arrangement and this and that. And that's one of the things that we kept talking about. Every one of us kept hitting home on, you know what, keep things fun, keep things simple. Because that's really all people need to get better. They just need consistency in those simple things. But say you want to experiment with something. Say you want to try, a new progression. Then try it out. I mean, little caveat, I would give it a dry run a few times, right? Like I would rehearse it, at the very least, rehearse it the night before at your dinner table or something. Be like, all right, cool. Jot down some notes. Don't just be like, oh man, I watched this video 2 minutes ago on how to do bar muscle ups. I'm going to do it right now. Probably not going to end well. But what I am saying is, man, as long as you put your planning in, right? You put some thought in, you put the thought, not some. You put the thought into it, and you're like, you know what? I'm going to try this. This is new. Give it a shot. If you mess up a little bit, it's fine. It's okay. Do no harm. Keep people safe. Make sure they're having fun, right? But I guarantee you, man, the more you practice that, the better you're going to get, right? Don't be afraid of innovation. That's how strength coaches, lack of innovation, the choice to grow stagnant is how we as strength and conditioning coaches grow old and die, right? Never that. Put yourself out there, man. Progress. Get better. You make a mistake, it's cool. It's part of the learning process. Learn from it. That's a key thing. Learn from it. Move forward. Semper Avanti. Always forward. That's it. That's all I got for today, everybody. Hey, if you like this podcast, make sure to share it with anyone that you think anyone that you think it can help, anyone you think can get something out of it. I don't make any money off this podcast. A couple of people ask, oh man, so how do you make anything off that? I don't make a goddamn thing, dude. I just like to get my voice out there. Hopefully I can help some people, share my experiences, and like I said, it's about hopefully helping people that are listening to this, and also putting my mind at ease, putting some good energy out there in the universe. But that's all I have for today. It is, what's today? Today is Tuesday, I think June 12th. Should be posting this tonight. Hey man, we'll see. Maybe I'll have another post this Friday, this Vice Friday night. Depends on how nutty I go with the ice cream intake. But if I don't talk to you till next week, guys, have a great week. Be good to each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.